Well, hi there. It's been a hot minute. I realize I've not been keeping up with my weekly updates and uploading episodes for you guys over the summer. I have had quite an interesting few months where I started this podcast. I was reaching out to get more of my message out there about osteopathy and other health resources. I was trying to talk about alignment and helping others, especially targeting women, to try and help them come more to terms with finding true alignment in their own lives. And it was funny. Summer rolled around and it was time for me to take some time off from my work and spend more time with my kids. And that time off revealed a lot of things to me that I was possibly ignoring in the past. And I definitely don't want this episode to become a self-serving episode. I don't want to just sit here and talk about myself because my main goal with this podcast is to actually help others. But I think it can be helpful to explain and to also elaborate on my own journey and my own processes of what I'm going through in order to help and translate those messages and those lessons I've learned to maybe help you avoid similar mistakes. Now, that being said, doesn't mean I made a big mistake and things are all messed up. It's more a sense of I was really coming from a place when I started this podcast to try and help others with their own journey. And it forces you to take a step back and look at your own journey at the same time. Because sometimes I may pull examples from my own personal life, and sometimes I may pull from clinical cases. But in this time frame of taking time off for the summer, I came to a big realization that the way I was running my life was no longer serving me anymore. And I was trying to sit here on a podcast and try to tell other people to try and realign their lives and find different ways to help themselves. And yet, you know, it's not 100% this bad, but there was many things I was doing in my own life that weren't aligned. And in order to continue being a good guide and to have material to talk about, I felt like I had to make certain changes in my life as well in order to continue forward doing this kind of sending out a message to people. So funny enough, I went on vacation. My kids were off for the summer. My daughter had summer vacation from school, and I decided to take some time off in order to spend time with them and to be honest, maybe recover a bit. I was feeling like, working in clinic, running a podcast, I was doing different kinds of work, and I was starting to get really tired. And by the time I walked out of clinic on my last day of work, I crashed. So I'm supposed to be on vacation and feel rejuvenated and just be running around with my kids. And I wouldn't say I fell straight into burnout, but like my body, my system basically was holding on for me to get to this vacation. And then it completely rebelled on me. And then I started getting fatigue and aches and pains. And it sounded it felt like to me that honestly I was starting to get bad hypothyroid symptoms again. And I've had issues with hypothyroidism in the past, but I had figured I had gotten past it, but I was starting with high stress to go back into a loop of losing energy again. So I don't know if you remember this, but there was an episode I did back in the early episodes of the podcast. It was all about healing and alignment and finding the wisdom within. And in there, I talk about different ways that one should really listen to oneself. And, the kind of work I do as an osteopath is all about aligning physically. And physical alignment is very important. If you have aches and pains, your posture gets all messed up. You end up compensating in different ways, and you can have pains in different areas that don't make sense to the patterns on how they set themselves up in the first place. It gets all complicated, and if you listen to any of my episodes in osteopathy, I have to go into almost an hour-long episode sometimes just to explain why those things happen that way. So physical alignment is important, and that's what I do in my everyday work. And I've worked hard on aligning myself physically, but there's something that was screaming at me that there was something else in my life that was not aligned. But what's funny is I actually really enjoy what I do. I love working as an osteopath. I love helping others heal. I love seeing results. I love when someone gets up from my table and they feel the difference that they have in their body. But for some reason, it was draining me. So I had to really take a step back over the summer. And I guess I had less to talk about then because I needed to figure out why the career I worked so hard to achieve, the career I love, was not giving me the same kind of fulfillment that it should. And finally, over time, I stopped with the whole doing and just sat back and started being. So we went to our family cottage up in the woods, and I'd go and I'd just sit in the grass or even lie in the grass, look up at the sky like I used to as a kid. And I would just sit with myself and I would go, who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? And what is it I'm truly trying to accomplish in this life? And was it really, realigning vertebrae? Is it running around from one thing to the next, from running to drop off kids at school, to then running to help people with their aches and pains, to then running back to pick them up from school, to then run and do homework, and then run and do other things? I realized I was living my life in a way where I was always serving others and I wasn't serving myself. So here I am trying to, help other people with their not only physical alignment, but with their mental, emotional, and their spiritual alignment, because believe it or not, they can all be very closely interlinked. But I wasn't doing the same. And I started to feel like a hypocrite. And it's funny because I've gone through these exercises before. I've done a lot of this self-work. I've done a lot of the meditations and the spiritual alignments and the manifestations and a lot of body work. I've done a lot of these things. But even after all that time, after all that progress, something came up and told me, it's still not it. You're still not there. But something from deep within was screaming, you need to figure this out. So how do you go about figuring that out when all you have is fatigue and aches and pains and low drive to do anything? How are you supposed to figure all that out? Well, today I hope I can maybe give someone who may be going through the same thing some cues. Maybe it'll be helpful. Maybe it won't be. I'm truly hoping that it comes in a place from service and to lead by example rather than just talk about myself, because that's not usually something I like to do. So to be honest, when it came down to it and I was sitting in the woods or sitting in the grass for a long time, no answers came to me. And that can be a very frustrating experience because all you're left with is, this is not it. This is not how your life is supposed to go. And then you go, well, what? And nothing comes. So I sat and I rested and I wondered some more. But then my kids started to be like, Mama, come play with us. So I'd stop thinking about that and go and be present with them for a while and be present with making dinner, be present with when my husband would come home and we'd chat and catch up instead of being in the to-do list that happens sometimes after a long day of the two of you working. I just started being, and slowly but surely, I started feeling more and more like myself again. Quick pause for a second. If you're listening to this and thinking, okay, this is me, I want you to know you don't have to figure this out alone. I have a free community on School, SKOOL, where I support women, especially moms in perimenopause, high-achieving women who are trying to balance it all, who are feeling low energy, have stubborn belly fat, hormone chaos, and that constant feeling of being stretched too thin. Inside this community, you'll find a free beginner challenge, and that helps you start stabilizing your energy, supporting your hormones, and laying the foundation for sustainable weight loss without extremes or burnout. So if you're enjoying this episode, I'd love to support you further. You can find the link in the show notes or head on over to skool.com, skool.com, and search for the group The Comeback. Okay, let's get back to the episode. Now, I know this is a luxurious thing to say, where I just took off work for a couple of months and just lived. I understand there's privilege in that. But I would say that if I had kept going the way that I was going, I would have ended up on sick leave or something, or on burnout again, which maybe technically I was back in. And I knew I had to figure out why. Because if I didn't, I would just continue in this loop of push through, grind through. You gotta perform. You gotta go and show everyone how good you are. Your bosses are counting on you. And I think it just came to me in a wave and a rush of, this no longer serves me anymore. This pattern of high performance, of trying to prove to everyone that I'm the best, which I didn't even realize I had in me. I just didn't want to play that game. And I know that can sound a little controversial. Like, in this day and age, everyone's trying to prove something. Everyone wants to climb the ladder. Everyone wants to be the best. And it's just funny. I think I just lost the drive of wanting to be the best anymore, and I just wanted to be. And the moment I started doing that, and I understood that and started implementing that, my energy started coming back. I was able to get restful sleep. I started making more conscious choices about what foods I should be putting in my body. I also had less drive to self-soothe with sweets or alcohol in stressful times. Instead, I wanted to rather just acknowledge and deal with it. I started to embody a different version of myself that I think I've been trying to be all this time, that I thought I had to achieve by doing. And finally, I was able to achieve that, or maybe not fully that, because the self-work is never done. But I was able to get to a better level of that by taking a step back, tuning into what is needed, and just being that entirely. Now, we all have our off days where you want to go back to your old patterns. Happens all the time. But the funny thing is now I'm able to identify them better. And when I see those old patterns coming up of stress, of wanting to perform, I'm able to catch myself and I'm able to stop it before it happens again. So because of embodying this kind of, I don't know if I'd say new and improved, but I'd say a more embodied version of who I truly am, rather than what everyone else thinks I should be, I feel lighter, I feel calmer in my brain. I feel better rest when I sleep. I digest better. I just feel more aligned with my soul. So does that mean that I'm no longer working as an osteopath? No. Funny enough, it never really was the work, but I needed to take a break from my work in order to figure out what was wrong. Because I was so busy fitting in work in between everything else, I never had the time and space to actually get to the bottom of it. So once it came time to go back to work, I realized I wanted to continue working as an osteopath, but I needed to work differently. I didn't want to be in the rush of working in an assembly line anymore. I want to work with people I want to work with, who want to work with me, where there's proper connections with, so that we can work together to make good results. and not just have me basically imposing treatment on someone who's passive on the table who expects me to fix them in an hour. And I find that now that I've made these changes, I'm attracting more of these people into my realm just by embodying and putting out there what I want and who I can help and what I need from others. And it's not like I shout this from the rooftops, but just by holding steady and that's what I need and embodying that in how I carry myself, it's almost like the universe has delivered that right back to me. Now, I know I'm starting to talk a bit on the realm of what the universe puts out there. I don't know how much you believe in manifestation or the powers of the universe or the laws of the universe. I've always personally been a bit of a skeptic on that. But the more I have surrendered and the more I have sometimes just been present in the moment and listened and been aware of what's happening around me and what's happening within myself, the better things tend to go for me. So now, after that time off, after going through the fire of change and stepping into a whole new reality, I'm now on the other side of that fire. And I must say, life seems filled with so much more possibilities than I ever thought imaginable. It's as if before I was stuck in a cage that I put myself in, thinking this is your life now. But my higher self was telling me, no, that's not all that there is for you. There's so much more that you need to see and possibly do. But this is not where you're going to be able to do that. So now, being on the other side of that, I have more energy. I have space in my day to take care of myself. And then I have space in the day to also continue taking care of others and also be more present as a mom and a wife and a friend. But to get to this point was not easy. To go through that fire of change, to finally decide and act, is probably one of the scariest leaps you'll ever make in your life. Because if you're on a course that you think is the right one for you, and you've been following that course for years, thinking that this is where you're supposed to be, it's very hard to listen to this little whisper within you that's going, no, that's not it. Because your brain's going, what do you mean this isn't it? We've been working on this forever. We're finally here. We got it. What do you mean? This is it. And somewhere deep down, there's a, no, it's not. And if you ignore it, the universe sends you a little pebble at first. Then it's going to throw a rock. And if you still don't listen, it's a big ass boulder. And let me tell you, a boulder is what I got, because I tried my best to try and keep everyone happy. I've been very good at trying my whole life anyway, to try and make everyone else happy. But at the end of the day, I just wasn't happy. And it wasn't any one person or any one thing or a job. It wasn't any of that. No, it's not my husband. We're still happily married and everything's great. I just had to make space for myself to actually be someone and not just be someone doing something all the time. And the moment I made that space, life got a lot lighter. If any of you are still listening to this rant this far, I appreciate you. And I hope it invites you to take some time to look at your own life. A lot of people feel like they have it all on paper, but they might still feel empty inside. And I'm not saying you in particular listening, this is for you. I'm just saying life can always look good on paper when you're on the outside. It doesn't mean that that's the life you're supposed to be living. So I hope with this episode, it just invites you to think of if you have a little pebble that's knocking at you, you don't have to change anything today. But if there's a pebble or a rock being thrown at you, I please invite you to sit with yourself and ask yourself those scary questions. Is there something I am ignoring because I don't want to deal with what happens if I choose to go that way? When I finally listened, so many possibilities and opportunities opened up in front of me. And I'm still a bit dumbfounded by how much has happened since I received that boulder. And you know what? I'm grateful for the boulder. Because at this point, I feel like anything's possible. And I hope the same for you.